Here we go. All right, good evening, folks. Folks are gonna join in. I'm gonna give folks a couple of minutes here to join on. We got a lot of excited folks excited for Cycle the Erie Canal coming up in just a couple of short weeks here. But yeah, I'm gonna give folks a couple more minutes to join in before we get started with our Cycle the Erie Canal orientation webinar. And as we allow folks to filter in, we'll start with some introductions here in just a minute. But we will have most of the time here, and I'll go through the agenda in a second. We'll have most of the time for Q&A. So if folks do have questions that we're going to cover a lot of the basics in our presentation here. But if folks have questions that aren't covered, or that that they really have sort of outstanding uncertainty about, please add them to the Q&A section on Zoom, or that's probably the easiest way for us to keep track of them. And we will try to answer as many questions as we can. If you have a question that is specific to your personal circumstances, webinar with 200 people is probably not the best place to have that answered. I would encourage you to send an email to cycletours@ptny.org, and we can get that information to you specific to your circumstances. But if it's something that you're not sure about that you think might be something that's more broadly a question, feel free to put it in the Q&A, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. Folks are putting some questions in the chat. Um, I see that there is some people hearing an echo. If you are hearing an echo, just try to make sure that you are muted. Um, yeah, and just double check your connection. I know we've had some storms run through, so in the Albany area, so depending on where you are, that might have an impact. I'll try to make sure I'm talking slow, but if there's anything again that I maybe cover that there are then questions about later on, I would encourage you to put some questions in the Q&A. All right, so we are going to jump right in. As I mentioned, here's the agenda for our webinar tonight. I'm going to do some introductions at the top, go over some of the basics about the ride, what to expect on what we call day zero. That's Saturday the 11th, when everybody arrives in Buffalo, and some folks will be taking the shuttle from Albany. We'll be discussing the logistics of that as well. We'll talk about what to expect at camp on each given night when we roll into camp after a day's riding. Talk about what to expect on the ride more generally. Then, hard to believe it, but after 8 days of riding, we'll be at the finish line back in Albany and what to expect there. And then, as I mentioned, we'll have most of the time for Q&A at the end. Um, so getting into introductions, obviously there's 5 people on the screen, but only 3 of us on video right now. So I'm Dylan Carey. I'm Director of Policy and Planning for Parks and Trails New York, and I'll talk about Parks and Trails New York in just a second. But I'm joined with a couple of other folks who will be part of the tours team for the week. Rob, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey there, Rob Pinzara, tour director, running all the logistics and making the event go with a great team of 120 odd volunteers.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm looking in the webinar chat, and it looks like some people may have had 2 windows open in Zoom when they clicked on the link. If you do have 2 windows open that are playing audio simultaneously, that might create an echo. So I would encourage you to just make sure you don't have 2 windows open. Um, all right. Erica Schneider, our policy and planning manager, wasn't able to join us today, but we do have Eliza, who is one of the newer PTNY staff members, who's on the call with us.
Hello, I'm the planning coordinator. As Dylan said, I am recently new to PTNY, but I will be biking the tour with you all this year and looking forward to it.
Awesome. We are excited to have Eliza on the team. And finally, Julia Duggan, who many of you may have emailed with already or had phone calls with, is our registration manager. And I think Julia is available on audio, but not on video right now.
Yes, I'm on audio, Dylan. Hi, and hi, everybody. I will be joining on video in probably about the next 10 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you, Julia. All right, so jumping right in, I mentioned that I was going to quickly talk about Parks and Trails New York. And for those who don't know, Cycle the Erie Canal supports Parks and Trails New York. We are a independent statewide nonprofit. We are not state parks. We are a entirely separate organization, although we do work closely with state parks and a number of other state agencies as partners. We're an advocate for public lands. We drive transformative change in those lands. We work to advocate for the construction and the improvement of the state's network of greenway trails, the state park system that we have in New York, ensuring that people of all ages and abilities can get out and enjoy everything that the state has to offer, from hiking trails to biking trails to swimming to whatever it might be in our state park system or other public lands. And by participating in Cycle the Erie Canal, you're supporting our ability to do that critical work. And about Cycle the Erie Canal itself, you guys are the part of the 28th running of this annual bike tour. We first held the ride back in 1997. Today, the ride follows approximately 400 miles from Buffalo to Albany over 8 days. And I'll talk about the route in just a second. Those numbers are actually a couple of days out of date. We have about 465 riders and about 115 volunteers registered for 2026 this year. And that includes folks from 37 different states, DC, Ontario, and Quebec. You can see the breakdown there by gender. And we have a pretty good age spread of age range as well. Our oldest rider is 86, and we have our youngest rider this year is 8. So we're excited to have everybody from all backgrounds, from all parts of the country and from Canada joining us this year on Cycle the Erie Canal, and people with all sorts of different backgrounds and experiences. And I mentioned I'd talk about the route. We follow generally the same route every year, and this follows the route of the Canalway Trail, the Erie Canalway Trail or the Empire State Trail. The two are the exact same thing for the route that we'll be on. The Empire State Trail extends beyond what the Erie Canalway Trail does, but we'll be following for the stretches we'll be on. The two are exactly the same. And the route we'll take goes from Buffalo to Albany over 8 days. We do have the interactive route map available on our website. You should have gotten in the monthly rider emails, you should have gotten the story map in the most recent one that gets into some more detail about what to expect in each of the communities along the way and what the exact route is. And we do have the ride with GPS files that are available. I'll note that those are being finalized as we get close to the tour. We want to make sure that we've got accurate information about where there may or may not be detours along the way, and make sure what we can, doing everything that we can to make sure that the route that we'll follow is safe for all of you. So, thinking about packing, thinking about getting ready, what can you bring on the ride? What is it that you have, available? So a couple of guidelines that we ask, because all of our luggage trucks are manned by volunteers, and we want to make sure that they're able to successfully manage all of your luggage. No more than 2 to 3 bags per person. We do ask that you consolidate your stuff into larger bags as much as you can, but no more than 40 pounds each. We want to make sure our volunteers are able to help you get your luggage onto the trucks. You can see the rental trucks that we use each day to bring luggage from camp to camp, and that they're then able to get them off of trucks when they arrive at camp, so that they're sitting there waiting for you when you roll in. A couple of notes. No use of bungee cords. Please don't use bungee cords to attach things to your bags. They can snap, they can break. We don't want to injure any of our luggage volunteers. They work so hard, and the last thing we want to see is any kind of issue there. And if they do see any bungee cords on luggage, they will ask that you remove it. A second thing to note is that your luggage might get wet. So we do encourage you to think about what luggage you're bringing and make sure that you're being considerate about, or being thoughtful about the luggage that you choose to bring. We'll do our best to try to keep it dry. We try to make sure that if it is raining when we unload, that it gets fully covered with a tarp. That if we can avoid unloading while it's raining, we'll wait a little bit for it to clear up. But we do ask that you just think about the fact that this is a fully outdoor event and your luggage might get wet during the course of the week. So, Day zero, when you arrive in Buffalo, or for those who arrive in Albany first to take the shuttle, what does that look like? What to expect? I'm going to go over some of the high level detail. There's some more information in the rider handbook, which I can't believe I haven't managed or mentioned yet. You should all have seen the rider handbook. It's available on our website. It's also has been sent linked to in the monthly rider emails. When I stop talking here in just a minute, I'll also find the link for it and put it in the chat so you all have easy reference to that as well. But the Rider Handbook is a critical resource for everybody as you're getting ready for the trip. So, but anyways, on day zero, what to expect? So, a few different things depending on where it is that you're first arriving to join the Cycle the Erie Canal fun. If you're arriving in Albany to take the shuttle from Albany to Buffalo, plan to arrive at Quackenbush Square at about 8 a.m. Don't arrive too early, please. We have our staff that are going to be there helping get everything loaded, but it is their Saturday morning, so they're not trying to get up too early. Everybody will get to Buffalo on time. Um, but yeah, plan to arrive at about 8 a.m. And I'll have another slide here in a second with a little bit more detail, but you'll check in before. Actually, this is a little outdated. You will actually park your car in the garage and then get your luggage and check in. Um, we do recommend that you pack a lunch. The buses will stop along the way, but it's a rest stop that can get very busy. And, you know, will only stop for so long. It'll be about a half an hour stop. But if you want to make sure that you've got time, that things don't get sort of overwhelmed while we're stopped there, I'd encourage you to consider packing a lunch. Buses will arrive in Buffalo at around 3 p.m. One thing that's a little different for folks who have done Cycle the Erie in past years, we are going to unload the bikes separately. You won't be able to pick your bike up right away as soon as you get off the bike. We'll have them in a separate section of Nichols School, which is where we'll arrive in Buffalo. Um, Bikes will be unloaded separately. You can get your luggage, go check in at registration, and then come back and get your bike once you're all set up in your tent and everything. Uh, the That'll give our volunteers some time to turn handlebars because if you're taking the shuttle, your handlebars do get turned 90 degrees to load all of the bikes on the luggage trucks. And just will help our volunteers not be overwhelmed with folks looking to get their bike. All the bikes will get there safe and sound. We'll want to make sure that, and you won't need it to start riding until the following morning. For folks who are arriving directly to Nichols themselves, you can arrive at Nichols. There is parking on the school grounds, but only for the day that we arrive. You can't leave a car at Nichols School for the week of the ride. We do have long-term parking. It's at a separate location. It's at Buffalo State College. When you registered, you would have had the option to choose either the Buffalo or Albany long-term parking. If you are parking in Buffalo long-term parking, what most folks will do, and of course everybody's circumstances might be a little different, but what most folks will do is drive to Nichols School, unload their bike and their luggage in their tent, and then drive over to the long-term parking lot where you can either if you have your bike with you still, you can bike back over to Nichols School, or we'll have shuttles available to bring folks back in. And if folks have some questions about how those shuttles run, Rob can speak to that in just a second. Um, at Nichols School is what we call alternately registration or check-in. Basically, it's you'll get all of the stuff you need from us for the week. You'll get your wristbands that marks you as part of the Cycle the Erie Canal Tour and allows you to get in for meals. You'll get your license plate that denotes you as one of the Cycle the Erie Canal riders. And we've got a special surprise for folks this year who may have done it in the past. And you'll get your official rider t-shirt. If you've ordered a jersey, one of the rider jerseys from us, you'll be able to pick that up at that point. We will have additional merchandise for sale from 3 to 5 p.m. You can get these great Ostroy resort shirts, we call them, cycling jerseys. We'll have some other great merchandise available. And that'll all be in the Nichols School ice rink. It's in an indoor location at Nichols School. So I mentioned I would talk a little bit more about the process for if you're taking the shuttle to Buffalo from Albany. And again, if you have not, everybody should already be registered for whichever shuttle you're taking, wherever you're planning to park, because we do have limited capacity in each of those shuttles or at the parking spots. And we want to make sure that that we've got that. If you're not sure what you're registered for, send an email to cycletours@ptny.org, and we'll have that contact information available at the end of the at the end of the webinar. Um, but but anyways, if you're taking the shuttle, first thing you'll do is arrive at Quackenbush Square, park in the garage. Everybody who's registered for a parking spot in Albany will be emailed a code the week before, at some point next week. That'll be the code that you need to use when you arrive at Quackenbush Square and Quackenbush Square parking garage. And we'll send out directions to the exact entrance to use. You need to make sure that you're parking on floors 4 and above. We will have PTNY staff there helping folks out, making sure everybody's able to get into the garage, enter the code, and reminding folks of that floor 4 and above. But that is something that the Albany Parking Authority has requested that we have all of our Cycle the Erie participants park on 4 and above. There is an elevator in the garage that can bring you down to ground level. And what we recommend is that you go park, get your bike off of your car, bring your bike loaded onto the thing, onto the luggage trucks that will be what's bringing the bikes to Buffalo for that day. Then go back and get your luggage, or if you can get it all in one trip, we're not going to stop you. But then go back and get your luggage and bring it with you. If you haven't yet stopped by our check-in table, you'll see a check-in table. It'll have a green pop-up Parks and Trails New York tent over it. You'll need to pick up a ticket for a specific bus. That's our way of making sure that everybody who has shown up to get on the bus, that we've got everybody. We don't want to miss anybody, leave anybody behind. So we'll use that ticket system to make sure that everybody that is there gets on the buses. And then you're responsible for loading your own luggage underneath the bus. These are like charter tour buses that have spots for luggage underneath them. Load your luggage under the bus. One note that's very important. If you have an e-bike with a removable battery, you need to remove that battery and bring it with you onto the seating area of the bus because that's where it's air conditioned. The last thing we want is to have any kind of issues with overheating batteries. And then finally, but the shuttles will arrive at Nichols School at about 3 p.m. You'll have plenty of time to check in. If there is, folks still trying to check in, if there's any issues with delays, PTNY staff will remain, checking people in, getting people all set. And we will also have time on Sunday morning for folks who are arriving late or who have some other sort of issue that prevents them from being able to check in on Saturday. A couple of other things to quickly mention for Saturday in Buffalo. We do have two optional pre-rides. One ride from up to Niagara Falls that is led by volunteers Amy Pedlow and Dee Rizzo. That leaves at 7:30 a.m. from Nichols School. It's about 50 miles. We also have a shorter downtown Buffalo ride that's again led by one of our volunteers, Aaron Slosman. That leaves at 10 a.m. Both will get you back with plenty of time to get yourself all registered, to purchase some merch if you want to. And I'll mention that we will have merch for sale at most of the nights along the way. Not necessarily every night, but most of the nights along the way, the merch will be set up. It'll probably be me there selling it, so you'll know to look for me. Um, and then we have what we call our sort of welcome reception, our social and dinner that evening. We'll have a wine tasting, and that'll be in the quad on Nichols School. We have dinner available. It'll be the first dinner that's available as part of your tour registration. There's going to be live music outside. And then at about 7:15, we'll do our opening remarks, or I think we might actually start that a little earlier this year. I think that'll start more like 7 o'clock. But we're going to do our opening remarks at 7 o'clock. That's just welcoming everybody in and going over some key logistical information from our volunteers. Things like, how to, safely ride in a group, how to use the car sag or the bike sag support if needed, what to expect at our rest stops. More information on that will be from our volunteer leads from each of those groups. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rob to talk about what to expect at camp and then what to expect once we start riding. So Rob, take it away.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And it's a great picture. So luggage at camp. Good thing to remember when you throw your luggage on the truck in the morning is what number truck your luggage went on. we have luggage 1 through 4. That's usually 1 through 3 mainly, and I'd recommend starting with the truck and sticking with it, and the luggage folks will give you guidance on the right truck to be assigned to. This way, when you arrive at camp, you know where to find your luggage, which truck to look at the line of luggage. So you put your luggage on the truck. As I mentioned, pro tip, same truck every day. And then you look for the lawn signs, which say which truck number you put your luggage on, and then you grab your bag. And that's a really good visual of what luggage looks like. A nice little identifier in your bag is helpful. If you have a black bag, for example, a lot of black bags out there, it's maybe a bandana or a ribbon, and that'll help you find your luggage.
And just real quick, one question that I see has come in that we can just sort of touch on right now is we had an attendee who asked if we will be handing out luggage tags for bags. That is not something that we do as part of this event. So if we recommend that you bring some sort of identifier yourself for your luggage.
Okay. Also, a couple people have asked if we're going to have this as a wrap up. We'll send out this webinar as recorded. So if your connection's unstable or you want to you missed something or you joined late, you get to see all of this in its entirety. We'll send a link afterwards. Someone also mentioned, I'm going to stay on this now because I actually see another question. Can luggage be hard-sided? We do recommend, and we put that in the rider guide, for it to be soft-sided. I think we did have an image of a hard-sided piece of luggage, and there might be even some in that picture down there that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Soft-sided is better, I would say. It's easier to move for us, easier to stack. So big preference on that instead of a big, large, hard-sided suitcase you bring to the airport.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Meals.
Meals, all right. So what's included? I think Dylan mentioned we have a great dinner starting at Nichols, and that's a good way to kick it off. Each morning there's breakfast, coffee starting at 6 a.m. Some people start lurking a little earlier. No guarantees it'll be before 6 a.m. for coffee. Definitely food won't be until 6 a.m. And we run it for a couple hours. The nice thing is that a lot of people get there at 6 a.m. That's kind of the rush, I would say. And then kind of it's about 6:30. Dill and I do a morning orientation meeting for about 15 minutes and usually have guest speakers there as well. It's a good thing to stick around for that at 6:30. This way you get kind of the lowdown on what's ahead for the day. And then additionally, we do like a recap at 7 or so, and it's kind of a shortened meeting, this for the folks that missed the 6:30 meeting. And then along the way, you have 2 daily rest stops with a great group of volunteers led by Lois that really kills it on rest stops. You will not go hungry, I assure you. And there's 2 a day. We don't provide a lunch during the course. We have 2 really well outfitted rest stops, but part of us not providing the lunch is you really should be checking out the communities, going into towns, off the trail, and supporting those communities and seeing what they have to offer. A lot of times communities come out and they provide things, which is nice. And you'll find that on our cue sheets each day, we'll actually list those kind of special things that happen, which is kind of fun too. And we also have 6 provided dinners. The 2 nights we don't have dinner, one is Seneca Falls, and the other one is slipping my mind right now.
Rome.
Rome, thank you. That's right, because of the block party. The busy week with me and the kids getting off school. Yes. So Seneca Falls, we have shuttle buses that take us into town. And it's only 0.5 miles to town. You could walk to town as well. And that's a fun night to get out, meet with the people in Seneca and actually go out into the town of Seneca. They love to have us. And then Rome, can't believe I missed Rome. If Bobby's on here, I apologize. Rome does a great block party, which is literally across the street from Fort Stanwix. You walk right over and get dinner right there. It's right in the slide, actually. Seneca Falls Rome. Thanks, Dylan. That makes it easy. Camping, tent setup. Comfy campers will set up the same way every day. They're kind of like the linchpin. They usually set up, and then we usually kind of spread out in areas around them because they're usually there first. Someone mentioned, does comfy campers set up on day 0? And yes, they do. You'll have your tent at Nichols on Saturday for day 0 that night to camp if you're part of comfy campers, and I'll be there too. And then on your own camp, wherever you can find, as long as we don't have a sign that says no camping. Certain schools, certain areas, they don't want us to camp, and we just have to respect that. But pretty much, you find a spot, you set up, and you make it your own. And then indoor camping is available every night, but that is that's a wide variety. And by indoor camping, it means a pad and your sleeping bag, maybe a small bag too. And these are in gyms, community rooms. We have an outdoor tent with a floor at Seneca Falls, a variety of things. Many times not air conditioned, so you might be inside, but it might not be air conditioned. Places try to accommodate by having fans, etc., and doors open, but that's the availability for indoor camping. And then charging, there's a great picture of our charging A-frames. I think we have a total of 5 of them. We might have a 6th. And we set these up all over camp, a couple outside, many are inside, and these are places you can charge your phones, your backup batteries, all your little things that you like to charge, your bike computers, things like that.
So just a quick mention on your phones, or if you have like a backup battery, do encourage that you put like a small piece of sort of identifying tape on your, especially if it's like a backup battery, to mark it as yours and write your name on it. We've had a couple of instances of, I think mostly just mistaken, people accidentally took a battery they thought was theirs and it actually was somebody else's. So just to help again identify something that is yours as your own.
And I would say additionally, when we're at schools, for example, besides our charging stations, people find outlets, as long as it's not in a blocked off area we can't access, you're welcome to plug into a lot of cafeterias of outlets, for example. So no lack of charging. Someone has an e-bike question, which I think we have in a later slide, but I'll just address it quickly. We have a whole separate system for e-bike batteries. Ray Skinner has a trailer. He's got 5 or 6 generators. He manages a couple tents, and that's where we do the e-bike batteries. And that's designated for the e-bikes because each year there's more and more e-bikes, and it's a dedicated outdoor area to do e-bike batteries, and you'll be able to find that at camp each day.
And if you are bringing an e-bike, we do charge, there is a charging fee that is associated. It's modest, it's $25. But if you have not registered as bringing an e-bike, that is something that you do need to add on to your registration to be able to charge your bike during the week. Reach out to us if you do need to add that to your registration.
Let's continue. We'll definitely get to the Q&A. I'm looking at the questions and trying to do them simultaneously, but also do them in the end. Mechanical support is available. We have 2 great mechanics, Jay and Ken. Thank you so much for being here. They have a lot of experience, and they're available to do a lot of stuff. There is fee for some labor based in parts, so they're nominal and not excessive, but it's not exactly free bike repair. But they do their best to keep everyone rolling, and they do a really nice job. They're nice guys. Medical service. Daily each day, 6 to 8 a.m. at the info tent, and then again 4 to 6 p.m. And then on the course each day, not specifically, they're also riding, but if they're around, obviously you can ask them questions. And then we also have a list for our SAG people of clinics nearby, et cetera. Obviously, if it's an emergency 911 situation, we'll call 911 and handle it that way. Shower trucks are available each day. And a lot of places have locker rooms too, so plenty of time to shower. Really nice shower trucks. OJ and Oakley will likely be with us again as the drivers, same company, Northern Exposure. And it's always good to bring shower shoes and a little bag of supplies because, it's a trailer and you have to walk upstairs to it, and there's sinks outside to shave, etc. So we have that availability, but good to have your stuff separate. Yoga, still have this in here. Someone also asked that also if we're having yoga. This is hit or miss this year. Last year, we had 2 great yoga instructors that are with us. One of them is coming to Hudson Valley this year, actually. But if you're on this call and you're a yoga person, please reach out to me because it's a bit more hit or miss this year. We don't have the same folks straight through. So if it's available, last year we did it, I think, in the afternoons as opposed to morning and afternoon. We found that was the best time. Next slide.
So on the ride.
Okay. On the right, each morning briefing, I mentioned this, we do a 6:30 a.m., which is the full briefing, and that talks about what you can see on the trail. And someone asked if the Erie Canal Museum historians are going to be there. Yes, they will be. So Dylan and I do our spiel. Sometimes there's a local person that does a spiel as well and introduces you either to the town you're leaving or going to. And then the Erie Canal Museum does a bit too. And then they also will rally again at the info tent to do a specific talk about what they're going to see, and then they'll meet you on the course as well. So if you're new to the ride, that's kind of an exciting thing. You really get to learn a lot. And if you've done the ride before, you might have missed some. Let's get out there. We have paper cue sheets, but I print less and less of those each year because I find people take less and less, and then we're just burning through paper. But we do have paper cue sheets for those that want them. And they have some extra things on them. A lot of the time what people do is take a photo of the cue sheet these days, the front and the back. So carrying a piece of paper, this way if it gets wet or ruined, it's easier. And then we also have the Ride with GPS files. I'd say the majority of people are doing this either on their phone with Ride with GPS or on their bike computer. And Charlie Long, who's our tech guy, will be there. And if you're having issues understanding how to use Ride with GPS, he will certainly help you. I could help you. I'm sure Dylan could help you. These are ways that you can use electronically to be prompted where to go. Plus, we have an awesome route marking team, which goes out. They've already started going out and doing it. They mark the route. And this year, we're going to have fluorescent green symbols, and we'll talk about that on the first night. It tells you to go straight, left, or right. So you can pretty much follow the marks without any of those, but we always think you should have the Ride with GPS on or the computer, or definitely have the cue sheet to know where we're going. And then we have route markers that check the route each day because overnight a tree could go down. Construction could pop up, even though we talk to municipalities. So we have folks that go out before you while you're eating breakfast. They're right out and they check the route for us. So I mentioned rest stops, tons of snacks and beverages. In the sake of health, we ask you to take off your dirty gloves and wash your hands before touching the food. This way to keep things down. You know, we are a rolling community of 600 people, and it's easy for things to spread. And then the mechanics, they'll leap around. We usually have one or two at each rest stop, and then definitely at the start and finish. We do a safety briefing each morning, just to kind of remind you. We do a bigger one on the first night. We talk about communication and predictability. I think that's the key to safety, mainly more than anything, is communicating what you're doing. You know, if you stop suddenly, if you make a turn suddenly, if you pull off suddenly, people are surprised whether they're with us or not, and that can cause a safety issue. SAG support, led by John Lawler, led again. If you've been on the ride before, you know how fabulous he is and all of his great team. We have Bicycle SAG, led by Dee Rizzo. She'll be out there with a crew of bicycle people that'll be on the route doing SAG for you. And then vehicles too. So if you have an issue, if there's an issue with the course, these folks swoop in, they take care of the situation, or you could request for them to move you to the next SAG, which the finish if you're at the last SAG. They help out with that. And there's a phone number to call each day. You could always reach by calling on the phone, texting, and we'll talk about that on the first night. And this isn't a shuttle service, like Bike SAG isn't at camp, take me to the next camp. If you're having a medical issue, you need to get to the next camp, you can talk to me, or Laura will be my right-hand person here. So a lot of questions popping up, and I will get to them.
Yeah, so this is an exciting new thing that we'll have as part of this year's ride, and that is that we're going to be doing themed rides. This is mostly going to be around the jerseys that you wear during each day, but anything else that you can do to help embellish that, we welcome it. We're just, you know, this is part of this is trying to make sure everybody's having fun and that we're really standing out to the communities that we're riding through. We want to make sure that, you know, that folks really appreciate the value that Cycle the Erie Canal is bringing to communities each day. So as you can see, day one is what we're calling State Day. Bring something that represents either your state that you live in now or your hometown, your alma mater, maybe something about state landmark. If you've got a cycling jersey from a ride that you've done in your local state, that would be great to bring, just to help folks get a sense of the spread of different places that riders are from. Day three is tropical vibes. If you've got any Hawaiian shirts and sunglasses, bright colors, we can wear a lei. That is what we're thinking. For day five, when we ride into Fort Stanwix historic site, and we'll be camping on the grounds of Fort Stanwix in Rome, we're going to be celebrating America's 250th. So we encourage you to break out any kind of patriotic gear or historical looks, really things to celebrate that landmark anniversary. And then finally on day eight, we have CTEC or PTNY Pride Day. If you've got a CTEC jersey that you've got from one of our previous years, or that you've got from being on this year's ride, or you've got some other Parks and Trails New York gear that you wanna wear, we would encourage you to ride that as we're rolling into the finish line and celebrating another great 8 days on Cycle the Erie Canal. And the finish line, what a perfect segue. So we really are really calling it more of the Finish Line Festival now. That will be at Quackenbush Square in Albany for folks that have done it before. It had been there a long time ago. For a few years, we were having it at other locations, but we're back at Quackenbush Square. We had it there last year. We're going to have some great food and drink options again. We'll have Thunder Mountain Curry was the vendor that we had set up there. We'll have the coffee vendor available, the restaurant, Old English Pub that will is right on the corner, right where we finish. They're going to be opening at 11. There's a new cafe in a building just next door that potentially is going to be opening. We're still working with the local tourism agency on getting them open. We're going to have some great live music. We'll have Troy Samba again, providing the energy as people are coming across the finish line. And then we're going to have the same band from last year, the Kevin Carey Group, who's going to be celebrating riders as they put in. And we encourage you to have your family and friends join you. This is really intended to be a celebration of the great accomplishment of finishing Cycle the Erie Canal, of having ridden across the state over 8 days. For folks who started in Albany, this is where you'll be able to just get back in your car and go home. And by started in Albany means that you took the shuttle with us on July 11th. You'll be able to pick up your luggage or load your luggage and bike in your car where it's parked there and leave at your own leisure. The luggage trucks usually get to the finish line, pretty early that morning by about 9 o'clock. Um, and and you can leave at your own leisure. If you started in Buffalo, we will have a separate spot at the Finish Festival for you to bring your luggage, to leave your bike while you're getting some food or anything. Um, and that is all part of a corral that then you'll have to load back onto the trucks if it's your bike or back under the shuttle buses to bring everything that you need back to Buffalo. The shuttle back to Buffalo leaves at 1 p.m. And it goes back to long-term parking. It doesn't go back to Nichols School. It goes back to where all of the cars will have been parked for the full week. Um, so a couple of just quick notes, and then we're going to dive right into the questions. I've been seeing them filter in. Um, One important thing is that we do use the rained out notification system. If there's any critical announcements that we need to make sure that we're able to get to everybody in through Cycle the Erie Canal or announcements as part of the ride. To receive those notifications, what you need to do is text the words or the text CTEC 26. And I saw there was a question. CTEC is or CTEC is an abbreviation we use for Cycle the Erie Canal. I'm a planner by trade, and planners tend to use acronyms for everything. So always feel free. If you see me on the ride and I'm using an acronym about something, feel free to ask me, what does it stand for? Because sometimes I forget that I'm even using them. But CTEC 26 to the number 84483, and that'll get you registered for the rained out notification system. So with that, we're going to go into the Q&A, and there's been a lot of them coming in, and I will feed some of these questions to Rob to answer. I'll answer some of them myself, and Julia may help with some questions as well. I'm going to start with some of the questions that are in the chat, just because those are harder to track. But I do encourage folks. I would prefer it just to help make it easier to track on us. If you can put in any questions in the Q&A function. If you don't see a Q&A function, on your toolbar at the bottom of your screen, there's a button that says More. Click on that, and you can get to the Q&A function through that.
Dylan,
So yeah, go ahead, Rob.
answering some too. So I think we can go back and I can go through the answered ones, but I've just been putting them in the answered section. So
Yeah, we have been answering some questions just directly into the Q&A system, especially if they're questions that that are specific to to somebody's sort of unique circumstances. So one question that I'm realizing we didn't really cover as much as we might have is for the 4-day riders, what to expect in Syracuse. So we do have a shuttle for 4-day riders from Syracuse back to Buffalo that will also bring you back to long-term parking. The setup is very similar. What you'll do is when we get to Syracuse, you'll go to the information tent, and there's an information tent or table at every one of our campsites. They will be able to direct you to where to pick up the shuttle. It's on the other side of the park that we stay at, and Burnett Park. Just it's where we're able to easily get the truck set up for loading and get the buses in. Um, you'll go over there, you'll find probably me, and you'll check in with either me or somebody from the team that will, mark you off on the list. We'll give you a little ticket. You'll need to get your luggage, which will have been unloaded off of whatever truck you put it on that morning. You'll need to get your luggage. You'll need to bring your bike, and then load your bike onto the truck that's driving the bikes back to Buffalo. And when the shuttles arrive, load your luggage onto the shuttle, and then the shuttle will leave. Rob, do you have in front of you what time the shuttle leaves? I want to say 4, but
From Syracuse,
yeah,
work all.
yeah, 4 o'clock the shuttle leaves from Syracuse. Most folks get into Syracuse around 1 or 2 that day, so you'll have time to shower and change, and hang out. Um, so that is sort of the quick. If folks have other questions about what to expect for leaving in Syracuse, I'm happy to answer those, but a few other questions that are coming in. I see a question about parking codes for Albany long-term parking. Those will be emailed to you the week before next week, so that you can use them when you arrive, and they'll only be sent to the folks who have registered for long-term parking. Gordon, I see you're the one that submitted this question. I know you're on the list, so you will be receiving that email either directly from me or from Julia. Um, a couple of questions about getting into the garage on Friday since you'll arrive in Albany the night before. Um, you what you'll likely need to do, and I'll confirm with the parking authority, is you can you can park your car in Quackenbush Garage. It may cost money in evenings, so you may choose to park it if you're staying at a hotel that has free parking options. You may choose to park it there, but you can park your car in Quackenbush Garage, and then uh, what you might need to do is enter a code to ensure that your car is sort of appropriately parked for the week. We'll follow up. If you are planning to arrive on Friday and would like to park in the garage, send us an email so that we can get that sorted. I would encourage you to park at your hotel if you can, and then drive there on Saturday morning. But if you have your heart set on parking in the garage on Friday, or if your plans require you to park on Friday, I would encourage you to do that. Um, I see a question about where we're staying in Seneca Falls this year. Rob, can you speak to that?
We're staying again at the Elks Lodge, which we stayed at last year. They've been very kind to us. We figured a few things out about the setup. We have a nice little bar area, which people seem to enjoy, especially since it is hot. And they did kind of um, an inexpensive dinner option too. I think it was like burgers and hot dogs that people liked that didn't want to go into town. Um, but then we run shuttle buses all day, starting at 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. or even later. There's 4 shuttles running into town in various places in Waterloo and Seneca. So plenty of places for you to go check out cool stuff and grab dinner or after ride.
A question about charging cables on the A-frames. Are those provided or should you bring your own?
You bring your own cables, yeah. This
Yeah.
basically the charging A-frame is designed by one of our staff that's basically wired into a bunch of surge protectors. We don't do anything dangerous, but you have to have your own charging cable for whatever you're trying to charge.
Yeah, it's basically a bunch of pockets that you can put. It's like a shoe holder thing, effectively, that you can put your phone in, but you have to have everything. It's just an outlet for you to plug into. Um, there's a question about if you're staying in hotels, can you still transport your luggage on the trucks?
Yes. So what we recommend for that is you have a lighter, smaller bag, and you come to camp, grab the small things you need for that evening to go to the hotel. Let the luggage truck driver know you're leaving the bag to stay overnight, and then go to your hotel, and then you can come back in the morning if you need to, and then swap things out and drop that little bag off. That's how I do it.
There's a question about opportunities to do laundry. I can speak to that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the two places that most people do laundry are in Syracuse and Rome. That's the end of day 4 and the end of day 5. In Syracuse, we run shuttles that'll bring you down to where the laundromat is. A lot of folks will do that. In Rome, there's a laundromat that is within walking distance. Last year, I know we also had some laundry service available in Seneca Falls. Rob, is that available again? Do you know?
It is. So nice local laundromat. Ideally this year, if we can get the laundry, we're going to try to get it in the morning on the way to Seneca. This way we kind of have a count. And then when you get to camp, you can actually add to laundry too. But there'll be like a cutoff around probably 5 o'clock. And they do the laundry that night. And
Hmm.
actually, they got some of it back that evening in Seneca. And then obviously the next morning it was there too. So that's kind of an early option. And it's a nice business along with Visit Seneca that's helping it out. So thank you for that.
Yep. There is a question about camping and bringing your own tents or if tenting is part of registration. We do have a service called Comfy Campers that some folks have signed up for. I believe that's fully sold out now. That is a tent concierge service where they will set up the tent for you. If you are not signed up for Comfy Campers, then yes, you would need to bring your own tent. That would need to, fit in your bags. Um, and that's part of what you need to be packing for the day. I think if you're bringing your own tent and you have 3 bags instead of two, that's entirely fine. But keep in mind that what you then may need to do each day is bring your bags from where they got unloaded off the truck to where you're able to set up your tent that night. So that is why we generally encourage people to pack a little bit on the lighter side. Um, a question on what to do to get your luggage in Albany if you're being dropped in Buffalo and picked up in Albany. So when you bike into the finish line, your luggage will be unloaded off of the trucks in a parking lot right adjacent to the finish line. And whoever is picking you up in Albany will be able to, there'll be short-term parking. We actually encourage folks to park in the same garage as everybody else. Um, and that short-term parking, they can come down, cheer you on, say hello, and then you'll be able to pick your luggage up just like just how you would any given day at camp. The luggage will be laid out for you to pick up. Um, so a question about the times that is served at camp if folks arrive at different times. Rob, do you want to speak to that?
Dinner is served from 5 to 7 p.m. each evening. So, I mean, technically the route closes at 5. I mean, that's what you say, just because we can't have our SAG out there forever. But SAG is usually amenable if we're close and you can do it. I'm not going
Yeah.
to spend it out 10, but you really need to be there by, like dinner's going to close at 7. And it's hard because caterers, I mean, it's a 2-hour window and they have to serve 600 people. So eat dinner by 7 o'clock, starting at 5 p.m.
Yeah. Um, and if you are planning to do something else where you're going off route, you can do that, but you can't necessarily rely on SAG support if you're out on, still riding past 5 o'clock each night. But most folks do arrive in camp around early to mid-afternoon, I'd say, and then it sort of folks get spread out during the day. Um, a couple of other questions here. One about the timing about family and friends coming into Quackenbush Square. Um, and that'll really depend on how fast you ride. We've got some folks that like to get out and just ride to the next town and are leaving early and getting into camp by 11 or noon. That's not how I personally like to do bike touring. I like to spend some time exploring the communities, but if that's your approach, then you can do that. There's also some folks that take their time and get the most out of every single day and are going at a much slower pace. And that's also entirely fine. That is, a great way to do it. So depending on how fast you ride, that will impact what time you arrive. Most riders will be arriving at Quackenbush Square between about 9 a.m. and about 1 p.m. So really you'll see that sort of busy sweet spot around like 10:30, 11 a.m. That will be the time most folks arrive. But again, it'll depend on on the speed that you're riding. Rob, there's a question about the typical bathroom facilities each evening in camp, and I know that we've had some questions in as well about um, the what to expect with porta johns if they're available during the ride. What that setup looks like.
So every rest stop and every overnight has porta johns, fresh ones. Like we change them out basically. They don't move with us. So different companies along the way set them up. Um, Rest stops usually have a few, like usually about 3 to 4, and there's 2 a day. And then there's usually brick and mortar at a lot of these rest stops too. They're at historical sites, they're at museums, they're at canal locks. So a lot of times there's also brick and mortar. And then at each night at camp, we have banks of them. So once again, banks of fresh porta potties, anywhere between 18 to 24 porta potties, and usually in a couple locations at camp that you can get to. So if you're camping at night, you can kind of get to them one way or the other easily. And then many locations overnight also have brick and mortar too. If we're at a school, we have access to a locker room or bathrooms. We'll have them. JCC obviously is an entire facility in this unit that has them. So plenty of opportunities for pretty tidy bathrooms that we change out each day. I'm going to mention this. I kind of just want to backtrack. A couple people have asked about rain and rained out. And just be clear about that. We ride in the rain. So be prepared to ride in the rain. We can't transport 700, 600 people in the rain. Rained out is really for emergencies. This is if we get an extreme weather warning of some kind. Severe thunderstorm, you need to take shelter for the next 15 minutes. A few years ago, there was actually, I don't want to scare anybody, a tornado warning. So things like that. And that's when we give you that. And in that instance, you get basically, there's a warning, you need to take shelter, and then it had guidance on where the shelter was. And then us as staff would guide you to shelters too. They're usually within sight of camp. It's a place to go for a couple hours to be safe in case there's an extreme weather event. But it could rain. You could ride in the rain. You could be camping in the rain. You could be waking up in the rain. We didn't see a lot of rain last year. We saw more heat than anything. But just be prepared for that instance. This is an outdoor tour.
A question about documentation needed to check in. Really, what you need is your name. You'll have a packet. The packets will all be alphabetical that will have your name on it. If you want to just sort of have all your I's dotted and your T's checked, have a copy of the registration confirmation email that we sent you when you registered. That's always good to have on hand. But really, you'll get up to the table, you'll give them your name. They'll find the packet with your name on it, and it'll have your information in there for you. I know we are getting close to 7, so we're going to answer as many questions as we can. But if you have questions that we're not able to get to, I did want to put our contact information up on the slide. Cycle tours at ptny.org. That is monitored by Julia. That 518-434-1583 is the main PTNY number. I would encourage you, if you can, put your question in an email to Julia. That's probably easier so she can filter through them as they come in. But if it is something that you think does require a call, we're happy to respond to questions by phone as well. So a couple of other questions. If you're staying in a hotel Saturday evening, can you load your luggage on Sunday morning? Yes, everybody loads their luggage on Sunday morning once they get up in camp. If you're being dropped off there. You will also be able to check in on Sunday morning at camp. We do encourage you to come to camp on Saturday evening. There's a lot of great information. There's a lot of great wine. I don't know that the wine's great. There's a lot of wine. Is it good wine? I'm usually busy doing all sorts of other stuff. I don't get to try the wines, but yeah. But yeah, we do encourage you if you can make it on Saturday to stop by at Nichols School. But yes, you can definitely either check in on Sunday morning and or load your luggage onto the truck Sunday, because each day you'll be picking your luggage back up and then in the morning loading it back onto the truck. Some questions about safety and locking up your bike and just sort of being aware of your surroundings. So most of the time we're camping in on school grounds or in other areas that are somewhat remote from developed areas. There are a couple of nights that we are in cities. And for those nights, I would just sort of encourage you to keep your stuff. If you've got any valuables, keep them on your person, lock your bike up. There are not necessarily racks for 600 bikes. As much as in my sort of fantasy, there's 600 bikes worth of bike racks in all of the cities we'd ride through. That doesn't exist yet. So most folks either lock their bikes to themselves or find like a fence to lock to. There'll be some places that we ask that you don't lock bikes to, just out of, we're trying to make sure that we're being respectful of the places that we're staying each night. but most bike theft or any kind of theft is an opportunity crime. If they see a nice bike that's sitting there unlocked, and they're inclined to steal it, they're going to do that. If they see 600 bikes and 590 of them are locked up and if they see one that's unlocked, then that might be the one that somebody goes for. I'm not trying to alarm anybody though. We do have security at some of the places that there's been an issue in the past, but we've had very few issues. I think maybe one that I know of. And it's yeah. So I think that's sort of the quick and dirty answer around safety and security. Um, are there bike racks in the towns to lock up the bikes? Not enough. That is actually something that you signing up for for Cycle the Erie helps us advocate for. PTNY is a nonprofit that works a lot with these communities to encourage them to have more amenities to be able to capitalize on the trail. We just put out a study that found that the Empire State Trail generates nearly $2 billion in economic impact for communities across the state, but we still think there's more potential for more. So, um, all of that being said, in a lot of these communities, there'll be places that you can lock up your bike either to some fences or to some racks. Or again, if you're riding with a buddy, locking the two bikes together, it's much harder to steal two bikes that are locked together than to steal just one. Um, will there be opportunities for swimming available is the question. Rob, how's swimming looking this year?
Yes. Usual suspects are there. Niskayuna, Canajoharie. Medina might be available this year. It hasn't been the past few years. I think Seneca is an option. So what we do each night, maybe I should have mentioned this earlier, honestly. Um, there's an info sheet, big 2x3 info sheet at the info tent each night. And you can walk up and you can see what's available and get to camp. And you can say, oh, there's a pool, there's not the hours, etc. So come to camp, come to the come to camp, come to the info tent, and you're going to see what's available. But yes, if there's a pool available, it'll be listed in how to get to it.
Yeah. Don't forget to pack your swim trunks if you do want to go swimming. A question about how early you can set up your tents in Buffalo, and this is generally true of most of the places that we camp. You can set your tents up when you roll into camp. Again, making sure that you're respecting any places that we don't allow camping that will have signs up. If you're in camp really early and we haven't gotten out to get the signs up yet, we may ask you to move your tent if it's somewhere that our host doesn't want to. But as long as and in Buffalo, you'll be able to do that. I think probably starting, in the morning, you'll be able to set up your tents. You don't have to wait until till registration opens at 2 to ask. And it's a big athletic field at Nichols School. Um, you'll be able to set your tents up sort of anywhere on that field, or there's a bunch of sort of grounds of the school grounds that you'll be able to set your tents up. Um, a couple of questions about locking as well. Uh, can you leave your bike by your tent overnight? Absolutely. A lot of folks do that. Some folks also, find a nearby fence to lock it to. But yeah, you can leave as long as folks can sort of easily make their way around the different tents. I mean, remember, this is camping for 600 people, so there's a lot of tents around. As long as folks can safely make their way through as needed, then yeah, you can leave your bikes by your tent. But you do need to bring your own locks. We do not provide locks. That is something that you need to be bringing as part of your trip is a lock to lock your bike up. Um, Yeah, a question about washing out laundry in the sinks. Generally, we don't sort of encourage that, especially in the sinks where people are doing sort of personal hygiene stuff. Some folks will shower in their bike clothes and rinse the stuff as they're showering. Um, I believe there's also a bucket that the shower truck folks fill up with some water that folks have used to wash some clothes out in the past. So that is an option, but generally we do ask that like if it's a sink that folks are using for personal hygiene, that that is where it's done. Rob, a
Well,
couple of questions, or do you want to?
I was saying there's a couple of good ones you can answer too. What is the percentage of the ride on the road with a lot of traffic? And then what's the longest road share distance, which probably into Seneca, and then pavement versus hard pack. And then Dylan, by the way, knows every inch of this track. It's incredible. His knowledge is vast and incredible. So he's definitely, like you tell you.
Yeah, so I would say it's probably about 75 to 80% on off-road trails. It varies a little each year depending on the exact route that we have to take with some construction that's happening that is requiring us to take some on-road detours, but generally about 75 to 80 people. The um, pavement versus stone dust breakdown is about it's about 50-50, I'd say. It's about if you break it out, the three different sort of pieces. Off-road paved is about 40%, off-road stone dust is about 40%, and then the other about 20%, 15 to 20% is the on-road stretch. And the on-road is generally, paved shoulders of roads. We do try to avoid busy highways, and anytime that there's issues with um, unsafe conditions, we do our best to try to make sure that that's not a place that we're routing folks. Some instances, that's the way that we've got to go to get from where we are to where we need to be. Um, and we're working on trying to get more off-road trails built, and that's what PTNY's mission, what your registration is helping to support. But it's a long challenge to get some of these cycling facilities built. One thing I will notice that folks always ask, well, hang on, how come we're going away from the trail? How come we're not on the trail the whole way? If there's trail, we're on it. The places where we're on road, it's not because we decide we don't want to use the trail anymore. It's because that's the only facility that's available. Not the entire stretch of the canal has trail directly alongside it. Some of it is, and wherever it is, we'll be using it. But we have to follow the routes that are available for us to safely use. And yes, there are some stretches that are on road, and just we make sure that folks are aware and that we're able to you know to have SAC support if there's any particularly challenging things. We'll definitely let folks know if there are any issues of um, challenging intersections. We'll talk about it, or lengthy on-road stretches. We'll talk about that at the morning briefings each day. See, there's a question about the longest on-road stretch. I don't know the exact mileage, but it's probably as we leave Clyde on the evening of day 3 and head down to Seneca Falls. But it's on rolling back farm roads. Honestly, it's some of my favorite stretches of riding, just because it really is beautiful. And there are a lot of the folks from the Amish community will come out and set up like lemonade stands. I think they've had like a homemade ice cream stand or machine set up along the route the last couple of years. And that's always a great treat if you're cycling on some of those through some of those farmlands on a hot day that really can hit the spot. But I will remind folks, and there was a question about this before. Um, Folks in the Amish community are cash only, and there will be some businesses that might be cash only. So we do encourage you to bring some cash, especially have it ready for day 3 is when we see the folks in on the way to Seneca Falls, and then there's a baked goods sale that the Amish set up on day 7 on our way into the Schoharie Crossing. The morning rest stop on that day. So make sure you've got cash available for that day, for those 2 days to be able to enjoy some of those great treats along the way. And no, the Amish buggies don't have bike racks, or at least not that I've seen. That would be pretty cool. A question about if the generators will always be located in one area. Yeah, the generators will be clumped together under a tent. And when you come to camp, there'll be signs that direct folks to where e-bike charging is. Um, those for those if you want to camp far away from that, just look for where that charging is set up, and try to be far away. There are low noise generators, but they're not absolutely quiet. Um, so yeah, I think just keep an eye out for that, and they stop overnight as well. We're not running the generators charging stuff overnight. Those are just during the day. So if you are riding an e-bike, when you roll into camp, the first thing you should do before you shower or whatever is bring your bike over to get charged so it can be charged while you're doing all of your evening activities because the generators are turning off at night. There's a question about bike support and SAG and if they're cash only. They are included. Part of what you get in registering for Cycle the Erie Canal is the bike and SAG support. So I've never heard of them turning away a tip. They would absolutely probably actually I wouldn't be surprised if they would turn it away because they're so dedicated to the work they do. But yeah, that's not a pay service. The mechanics, though that is a pay service, although they have incredibly reasonable rates. They want to get you riding again. Mostly the cost will be just if there is some parts that you need to purchase. The mechanics will charge you for that and a nominal service fee. Um, if you have any battery packs other than e-bikes that if those need to go in the luggage truck or if they should be on your bike for the day, um, I think probably reach out to us with any specifics around what that might be. Generally, yeah, if there's anything where it's a lithium battery and there's a risk of it sort of overheating. We don't want a fire to break out in the middle of everybody's luggage. That would not be great for anybody. Um, but yeah, if it's something you can bring with you, that's probably safest. But yeah, if you're not sure, reach out to us and we can give some guidance on that. Um, all right, yeah, I think that the questions have pretty much started to, I think we've got most of them answered. I do see a question about merchandise for tall people. We do not have specific tall sizes available, but um, I would encourage folks to stop by the tent. We'll have a range of sizes on our different merch offerings. If you are charging your e-bike, yes, you do need to bring your own charger. Again, it's a similar setup where there's outlets, but you do need to bring your own charger. Rob, can you speak to the yoga? If it's something that needs to be pre-registered for, if you need to bring your own yoga mats, like,
Yeah,
um,
pretty easy going. Bring your own mat, certainly. And no real pre-register when we did it last year. You just walked up and we usually handwrite it into the info sheet, the big info sheet I mentioned at the info tent, because they would show up, they kind of try to find a spot, sometimes outdoors, sometimes it's indoors, and kind of just guide you towards that. And usually there'll be a meetup by the info tent if you set it up. So, but no pre-register. Maybe like
yeah,
15 people, I'd say, not a big group. Um,
yeah,
One thing I will say is if you have any more questions, I've been repeatedly putting my email into the Q&A and the chat. I'll do it one more time. Please reach out or Cycle Tours at PTNY, either one. And if you're needing to see answers, if you go into the Q&A, there's an open question and an answered. Click on the answered. And we've answered 62 questions in there too. So that's a good spot for you to kind of go through and check things out. Oh, thank you, Dylan. Dylan just put the emails in.
yeah. I put all of our info. Yeah, I'm glad that I hope folks have found this orientation webinar useful. I look forward to seeing all of you in Buffalo in just a few, hard to imagine it, but it's just, what is it, 10, 11 days? We'll all be out there. I'm excited. Unfortunately, I will not be riding with all of you this year. Erica and Eliza from the PTNY team will be riding, but I'll be helping provide support. But look forward to seeing you guys all in Buffalo. Come up and say hi when you get there, and we'll looking forward to it. We'll have a great time with everybody. So thanks,
Yep.
everybody. Have a good
I'd like to say
evening.
thank you as well, just before you jump off. Thanks,
Oh
everybody.
yeah.
It's one of my favorite weeks of the year, honestly. And we have a great group of volunteers, over 100, many of them returning. Many have been doing it over 10 years. It's really make this ride magical. And a big appreciation for the volunteers. And it really is about you guys having a good time. We realize it's your vacation. So just come to us with any reasonable request and we try to make it happen. So thank you.
There's a question. Is there a talent show in Niskayuna again? Yes, there is a talent show as we arrive in Niskayuna on the last or the second to last day of riding. So get your talents ready.
Bring your bagpipes.
Yeah. We had a bagpiper play in a talent show
That's about it.
at Cycle the Hudson Valley a couple of years ago. Yeah, that was pretty impressive.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks everybody. Have a good evening.